how you ended up where you are today leading Fenris.
Yeah, it's been a journey, as everybody in insurance will say. But no, I'm now the founder and CEO of Fenris, which is a machine learning and data insights company. I got here by way of entering insurance back in 2009. I helped a good friend of mine start a carrier from scratch. So that was a big experience for me, my first entrance into insurance. After we got Elephant launched, I went and joined another friend. We had a startup that was a telematics platform provider, and we were venture capital backed, and we actually sold that a few years later to CCC. So it became part of their core offering.
Awesome.
I went to work at Allianz for a little bit, but I think that's what pushed me over the edge. When you work for a large company, and a lot of your viewers will be working for large insurance carriers, it's a really great opportunity to see the big picture, but also to see where the opportunities are to improve things. And that kind of necessitated my desire, the impetus for me to branch out, go out on my own and start Fenris as a startup. And subsequently over the years, what we've done is build a team around it, built up a set of API-based products and a wonderful a set of clients and partners that have allowed us to really achieve more of our vision.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic watching it grow. I think when we met in 18, probably 17 or 18.
Pre-pandemic for sure.
Yeah. It's been really awesome watching Fenris's and your trajectory for sure. I got started in insurance.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same question of you.
Yeah, I started out in pricing at the General and really cut my teeth and realized the power of understanding what do people do and how do those decisions lead to how you price products. And then turned quickly to the dark side marketing and led national accounts and stayed in that world for several years across 3 different carriers until where I ended up here today at LeadCloud, which was an amazing opportunity to really sort of carry the torch, as now Brian, one of the co-founders, is no longer with the company, to apply all of the learnings that I had as a client at the General, Travelers, and Mile Auto to now say, I know what is possible. I've been on the other side of this. What other things can we do? What are the use cases that we didn't have at the time? And I'm really excited for the role that I have now, leading strategy and marketing at LeadCloud.
I think it makes you a really great advocate for your clients because you sat in their seats, and so have I in years past. But I think that's what makes this a really interesting conversation for me to have, because it's not, and I hope that everyone viewing will think how wonderful it is to be able to see someone who's seen both sides and then presents a pretty informed, knowledgeable, but also, I think, persuasive view, because you have been there, you have done that. And now at a startup per se, although you guys are part of a much larger organization, you still
we're 10 years old now.
that nimbleness, that customer first approach that I think sets it apart. LeadCloud's always been one of the leaders in the space.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And as we kind of go through the conversation, I'd love to understand more of what's the big problem that Fenris is working towards trying to solve.
It is it's my favorite problem, actually. Like, I think that a lot of love and attention has been paid over the years with data and insights into the underwriting and the claims areas of the organization. And you can see they've benefited from it. They've gotten sharper. You yourself, having come from pricing, right? You know how they apply that data. But what I thought was a big gap was the unmet demand in the marketing arena. So very early insights that can kind of upfront insights that help with the downstream pathing of your leads, your quotes, and your applicants. So we wanted to solve for that problem by being the first API, the second API, the third API, wherever it is along that customer journey. We want to be among the first that they call so that they can get that insight and then apply what they need to get the best outcome. Now, The problems are pretty well known. It's really expensive to acquire customers. It's time consuming, and oftentimes the information you're using initially is inaccurate, which of course leads to bad results. So those are things that we also try to address within our suite of data and insight products.
Awesome. Yeah. And us both being buyers, we know very well how much information you wish you had when you're out there buying and acquiring new
Yeah.
customers. So that's why I've been so interested to see where you would take Fenris, because in prior roles, I wish I had had things that could have informed me better on what we were doing, because I think the results would have been astronomically better than what we've gotten out of it. On the LeadCloud side, we saw back in 2013 that there was a real problem connecting carriers to marketing partners and third-party data services, in that a lot of them are running legacy systems that frankly are older than I am and aren't
You're a young
designed
guy still, Devin.
that
Do you remember
just
COBOL
don't.
at all?
No.
Okay.
I know people who have told me about carrying note cards to run their programs, but I've never done it myself.
Well, count yourself lucky.
Yeah. It's as an industry, you know, lagging from a technology perspective. The number of people that I still talk to in the industry that say, "I remember when we used carbon paper," is staggering still. One person in particular, if they see this, will laugh because they know that this is a reference to them. But finding that opportunity to say, we can build an integration to make it easier to connect to all these partners, and not just doing a one-to-one, but a one-to-many, where LeadCloud acts as a universal translator for that information that's being passed back and forth. So when the carrier maps to us once, they do that work the first time, and any changes that happen afterward are completely administrative. And I can say that confidently as the person who was doing those changes and saying, hey, there's a new field we need to ingest. How do you want to take that in? What's the format? What's the response that needs to happen? And I don't know how to code. I just can't do it. I won't even try. But over the years, I have figured out how to read XML reasonably well, at least in the insurance space. So it really enables fast movement on the marketing side and allows IT resources on the carrier side to focus on what they really want to do, which is improve their product, make sure their systems keep working, and not spend time on little bitty integrations that may or may not have huge movement for the organization. Let them focus on the key things. We'll do the little stuff. And as a result, we've delivered rated experiences. We pass data leads, clicks, call data, all the way to a fully embedded click to bind experience, batch book rolls, really anywhere data is being transferred from in a one to many situation and needs to be routed or filtered, and tapping into decision engines, which we haven't even talked about. The ability to connect someone like a Fenris into a buying flow is something that we've helped a lot of our carrier partners accomplish, and easily, rather than trying to hook directly into these systems and go through all of the fun compliance things that come along with that. We can plug it into the existing flow much more simply, and much faster than previously.
And it's such a benefit too. I mean, I know being in that position, it would be hard to get individual, providers locked in on my procurement team, and then getting the integration. So that's a huge benefit to have one pipe, at which point that can integrate before it even gets to the carrier, to do some of that filtering and segmentation and optimization before it even gets there. And then they don't have to change their systems or make the adjustments, because legacy systems, just to go back to that, they're there for a reason. They're very robust.
Oh yeah.
Right? They've stood the test of time. But going deep back into the source code or trying to change something that's on top of it can introduce downstream problems. So it's much better, I think, for them to partner and to take advantage of what's already been built rather than go out and create something from scratch.
For sure, for sure. You had mentioned earlier that upfront insights is something that Fenris is providing. And one of the many conversations we've had this year with our partners is how they're all looking for ways to bolster their existing lead buying efforts, make it smarter, make it faster, make it more efficient. How can Fenris make their marketing dollars deliver more profitable growth?
Hit the right note there with profitable growth, right? And I think we talked about this before, how when we were in charge of marketing, sometimes we had metrics or KPIs, OKRs, whatever people call them today, goals, that perhaps focused on the interim steps like completion rate or conversion rate. But ultimately, I think where the industry wants to head is profitable growth. And that's a bigger picture view. How we help, we oftentimes are one of the first partners called upon. So with our machine learning and data insights, we have some out of the box base models that we can apply even at the ping level that help to essentially identify who's going to become their best customer down the line. So we apply that early with configured scoring for each one of our clients, and they access that through the API. And it means what they didn't have to do was build their own models, use their data scientists, watch those degrade over time, and then rebuild those models,
Yeah.
employ those data scientists. With us, it's an API service that is tuned as often as they would like it to be, even at the ping. Of course, at the post, we can evaluate it more deeply about contactability with what we call our Fenris profile, which is a string of, I think, 6, maybe 7 features that we run through to make sure that this is really, truly the ideal profile customer for that particular, product and carrier. And beyond that, we're well known for our pre-fill. So with auto,
Right.
home, life, and small business, with just that name and address sent to us, we'll match it back to our we have a robust reference data set that covers the US population, assets, and all sorts of different things that are proprietarily built around this insurance use case. So we can pull out, for instance, with auto insurance, the drivers, the vehicles, the VINs, and that's really helpful in terms of, we've shown that you can increase your completion rates 4 to 5 times, thus saving time and energy, right, for the right opportunities. So those are kind of some of the suite of products that we offer today. And then, as you know, anytime a client comes to us with something really insightful or interesting, we will absolutely do what we can do in terms of swapping outcomes. So that's when products like propensity to buy came to be, right? Or persistency, predicting with accuracy, will this particular applicant still be a customer, 3, 5, right, 10 months down the line? We do all of those things on behalf of the marketing team to sort of identify early on, again, who's going to become their best customer.
Awesome. There is a lot there that I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of marketers didn't realize how easy it was to access upfront, and the amount of time it would normally take a data science team to build that internally. I think the usual look back is 5 years, and you're also talking about however long that development time takes. So 5 years and a couple months is a big change in, especially looking at right now, customer behavior. And that was sort of the next area I wanted to talk about, which was looking at the LTV models used by carriers today. Mm-hmm. If you're doing a 5-year look back, the landscape has changed so drastically in that time frame, even in the last year. And it sounds like you have a much better way of doing it. Can you talk more to how you're training it more frequently, your models and your decisioning, and how that's worked with, obviously anonymously with existing clients, and how that can be applied?
Yeah, sure. It's It's a great question too, because just about every client will come with something fairly unique, but because we have now, I think we've enabled a couple billion in premium, right, from beginning to end. So we can find the threads of commonality again and apply the base models. But let's say you're a marketer who knows that they're at this point they're tooling up to buy a lot of leads in 2024 because we know that it's been a tough year, right? Some of them are returning, some of them are they're just engaged with LeadCloud, for instance, planning out what are we going to do for 2024 when we know we need to return to profit growth. And so oftentimes what we ask them are, please identify, what is your biggest problem and how do you measure that? Because that is going to become part of the pilot that we'll do for free. And we're happy to do that because it's fairly straightforward for us to show and demonstrate how much of an impact these insights early on can make if you're really dedicated to making your customer experience the best, your agent experience the best, and having your better outcomes. So with lifetime value, how everyone defines that is a little different. So I might toss that back to you, Devin, and ask, how did you, when you were in your role, because you had a really unique view. And so people will see sort of real time how we think about this, but how did you define lifetime value?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There were really two ways of doing it. I guess two elements that I looked at specifically around it, which was how long do I actually think this person will persist? And across the three carriers I worked with, wildly different metrics from a non-standard auto carrier to a preferred multi-line personal lines company. In addition to that, understanding what's the real value of that person long term from a premium perspective. Not just, hey, I think they're going to last 5 years, but does that mean $500 or $5,000 or $50,000 because they have multiple homes, multiple vehicles, an umbrella policy, they rent a house, and they have multiple toys that they're insuring too. So I think LTV is not a one size fits all solution, I think, to marketing and targeting better. I think it's a component of a larger ecosystem that you build to target a specific customer, because I'm going to be looking at very different numbers targeting a non-standard auto client, because that person may only persist for a few months, and I might be completely happy with that based on whatever my targets are. So I think there's a lot more to just including LTV than whatever is considered LTV if it's a
there you go.
timeline.
So that's a great example of how at least how I view it, working with Fenris helps our clients actually preserve their competitive advantage. It's not that we're one size fits all. We're automating some of those machine learning pipelines so that their algorithm, which is stored in the cloud, and accessible with that API pull and application in our data, it's tuned to them. So in this case, we might have started, Devin, with something that's lifetime values, unless you had a calculation ready to go and said, this is my outcome. I might have started you with something like, it sounds like multiple product lines or cross-sell potential, partnered with duration would be, or, a churn would be maybe the two variables that you'd want us to look at. And because machines are pretty straightforward, they're going to optimize around those two things. That tends to get you, it's like that 80-20 rule. That gets you most of the value.
Right.
And then, of course, you can spend the time and optimize around that. And we do that because things are always changing on the ground. But it's pretty striking how those initial results can help you. And I don't know why I'm going to bring up this old adage, but, they always say that half of all your marketing dollars are well spent. It's just that you don't know which half. And I think what we're trying to do is we want to help bring those insights earlier so you don't have to wait to find out which of your dollars are spent well. You want to spend them well from the very beginning from the get-go. And thanks for helping with that lifetime value analysis, because it is a challenge with the different varieties of insurance players that we cater to. And everyone will say we have a price for everyone, but that's an interesting adage, because not all of those will make for your best customers when they do come across.
Exactly. Yeah, I think a more appropriate statement would be we have a price for everyone that tells them which direction we want them to go. Here or somewhere else.
And we hope they take the hint, right?
Yes, 100%.
Well, I mean, I think that's the great part about it being a mandatory product, is there's been an entire ecosystem of companies built up with some niches that specialize and are able to better price, certain types of risk. And that's what we're trying to do, is help everyone just be a little sharper and smarter about who you're bringing into the funnel and accelerating through that customer journey.
Absolutely. And knowing that we're trying to do essentially new things and entering a very different world from a acquisition and marketing perspective. Is there anyone else doing interesting things out there that you're following that you would recommend to the folks watching this to look at?
Oh yeah, there are some great. So I stay pretty close to the insurtech scene in general, and a lot of the founders that are out there. And some of the neat things that I'm seeing, and there's a slew of acquisitions happening. So these great founders have started companies, they've gotten to a certain point, and now larger companies are saying that looks like something I could bolt on or scale more quickly. So if you look at some of the acquisitions that are being done of some of the agency management systems, or even these quoting raters and systems, small commercial is really interesting to me as well, because it's such a wild west environment. And it's certainly growing, whereas maybe in P&C it's been a bit reluctant to grow this year. That's an understatement, right?
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of concerns, but small business is just going gangbusters. So if you look closely at that, there are many entities there that are looking at, how do I automate some of the processes, much like P&C did, and push underwriting into a streamlined automation flow. So I don't think we're ever going to see an end to automation or streamlining or machine learning or AI in insurance, just because it's such a great industry that has a lot of opportunities, as we like to say, to improve, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know you feel that way too. So you've just been, as you've gone and become really knowledgeable about so many different models, I think that's where, when your clients come to you and ask what's going on out there, you've also been able to provide a lot of insights. So same question back to you, Devin. What have you seen that you're helping your clients understand is on the horizon for them?
Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely that fear of AI and ML taking people's jobs and really changing the landscape. And I think it will change the landscape to a degree. But looking at least trying to look forward into what's the impact actually going to be, I think it's really going to be an enhancement to what everyone does. And an example I've been thinking about a lot and talking to folks out there in the market is the independent agent channel and the agent channel in general, frankly. Since Progressive in the 90s said the agent channel is dead, we are 30 plus years out, it's still not dead.
No, and it won't.
50 and change % of the premium that is written through an agent. However, you're also encountering an aging agent population with books of business that need to be shifted to younger agents. And unfortunately, the industry hasn't done a great job of recruiting younger folks to kind of pick up the mantle and continue on. However, I think there's a huge opportunity for AI to help enhance the agent experience, where an agent can focus in on a more complex, more premium, valuable product where they're getting a higher commission level, to then simultaneously say, give me 5 data points and I can quote you for all of these other products. while we're having this more in-depth conversation about your commercial policy, your business policy, your home, etc., so that they can also get that ATV, that boat, their dirt bikes, etc. Whereas that conversation would have been a 2-hour consultation, it suddenly turns into 20 minutes because all of these other things are happening in parallel with the face-to-face conversation. So I'm really curious to see where that technology gets implemented, and we're actively starting to enable those types of conversations within our carrier partnerships. So we're really excited to see the outcomes of that.
I'm so excited about that because I think we attended a conference together where the speaker mentioned instead of artificial intelligence, she wanted us to think about it as assisted intelligence. So helping the human to actually do their job better. And there are those two versions. There's the generative AI, which creates a lot of the content that people are interested in lately, but it's often learning from the internet, right? And pulling things from there. But there's still just this important piece that we find that's just that ground truth about the actual individual, the applicant, be it a person or a business. Like you need to know ground truth. What can I know about them as a 360 view? And then how can I predict, right, an optimal path forward? That's where we intend to play as one of the key providers. Besides some of the large data companies out there, there isn't a lot of other companies doing what we do and providing that hard, ground truth about the individual.
Right.
And things that make me excited about it is I believe what we're doing is actually, I believe what the agents, as you talk about the innovation that's hitting them and the carriers, it's all for the benefit of the consumers. Consumers will get the products that they need. Agents will be able to serve them better. And ultimately, I think the carriers benefit by having, again, better information and better expense ratios, particularly as we focus on the marketing expense ratio there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So I'm going to flip directions really quick and ask you a question I think about sometimes. If you weren't working in insurance, what would you do?
Oh my goodness. You didn't warn me about this one, did you?
I can go first.
Okay, that's good.
If I didn't work in insurance, I would probably do something in music or art. Being on the marketing side, I still dabble. I haven't played a full-blown show in several years, but I opened up for another band a year ago. Yeah, a year ago. And still, I do greeting cards and whatnot for the holidays for kind of my family and friends. So that's something if I wasn't doing insurance, that's probably what I would spend my time doing.
It's awesome. And I see that in you. I see the creativity come out all the time. Well, my roots, I went back, and when I was in undergrad, I studied molecular biology.
Wow.
With a chemistry minor and humanities minor. And I really wanted to follow in the footsteps of some of my family members who have gone on to get their PhDs, teach at prestigious universities, but mostly do research around genetics and proteomics, things that help the human condition, prevent disease, extend lifetimes. I'm certain, had I not been bitten by the bug of being able to solve, commercial problems and seeing that as something that I could move on much more quickly than what typically happens in labs, which can take years, right? To get enough information to publish. I was always much more attracted to how can I fix something today and now? And that dragged me through. But I would imagine if I were to go back again, that I could be very happy doing that because it is a lot about, experimentation, observation, building a hypothesis, and then getting to the result and then starting all over again to improve what you know about something and how you can help make it better. So I'm pretty sure you would have seen, with my glasses on and some white lab coat and Not very social.
That's so cool. No, I didn't know that about you. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's the part I guess I buried when I went back to business school a little bit so that I could adapt to the kind of environment that you need to be a part of when you're in the insurance or the business arena.
Sure. I think that curiosity carried over there for sure.
Absolutely. It kills my kids. I'm always asking them about their classes and what they're learning.
That's awesome. That's the bulk of my questions. Did you have any you wanted to throw out and cover?
Yeah, I was thinking about something we talked about a little bit earlier, and it's it's really going to put you on the spot here, Devin. You have to take a crystal ball out.
I don't think I have one, but how about a
And
hockey puck? Does that work?
okay, all right. And I need you to predict what's going to be the biggest if you're in the marketing role, and maybe you hinted at it a little bit earlier, so this may not be as game changing since you've already hinted at it a little bit, maybe. But what do you think is the biggest change that marketers are going to have to deal with in the next 1 to 2 years?
Really good question. I think we've referenced pieces of it throughout our conversation. I think one will be that they will add a new word to their vocabulary, or two words actually: loss ratio.
Yes.
It is a term that most marketers do not talk about, especially in the insurance industry, which, coming from a pricing background, blows my mind sometimes. Uh, I think over the next 2 years, that word will be heard a lot more than anyone in the marketing field wants to hear it. But it's an unfortunate outcome of people are losing money and they need to pay attention to that. And it's not growth mode right now. And I think the second would be enhancement. The amount of resources and conversations and initiatives that we see happening on the carrier side, and frankly, even on the marketing partner side, to enhance how they're targeting customers, to enhance the quality of the leads being sold, so that the full value can be extracted and sold to those carriers who are purchasing them, is absolutely happening right now. Margins are thin on both sides, so both ends of the marketing partners as well as the carriers are looking for opportunities to drive more value to their customers, whether it's that end policyholder or the carrier trying to drive more volume, leading to more premium growth. So, good question.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I do think that's the viewpoint that you bring that's unique, because across the industry, marketers are becoming more aware of loss ratio, but certainly 10 years ago, this was not part of our calculation.
No.
when we looked at that was owned by other, I mean, it was certainly part of the company's calculation, but it was owned by other departments. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope everyone out there did as well. Where can we find you out in the world before the end of this year? Are you attending any additional events this year? Are you going on any other webinars that we should be aware of?
You'll see Fenris popping up in a city near you. We go to a lot of the InsurTech local events, since there's such a great local InsurTech environment, and our staffing model is distributed, so people live wherever they want to, remotely within the U.S. But in addition to that, I think when AppliedNet has their event, we have done a good job of integrating our APIs into existing software and technology that agents and carriers use today. So we'll be part of AppliedNet. You'll see us there. And then I think right after that, ITC, InsurTech Connect in Vegas, will be part of that event. And I know I'm speaking on the stage there. I just haven't come to grips yet with what I'm going to talk about. So those are a few of the events that we're planning on. What about you?
Awesome. Yeah, I will be speaking at a panel at ITC in Vegas later this year. Halloween, wear your costumes. Uh, it'll be a really interesting event. Overlap of insurance people and everyone who shows up to Vegas for Halloween. And I think that's really the wrap up of my travel before the end of the year. Um, and I was gonna say for you as well, um, if you want to plug it, that you're looking for some new folks to bring onto your team. I know there's been a lot of downsizing, and I think if you're looking for a new opportunity, Fenris is a great place to go and really learn and understand the industry and apply your skills if you're looking for a new opportunity.
Thank you, Devin, for bringing that up, and I really appreciate that. One of my top goals is to build a successful team with respect and really that just produces results that are great for our clients. Yes, we're hiring mostly in sales, customer success, and marketing right now. We have a pretty good engineering team. And I think at this point, based on how well, let me start that one over. I just want to be clear.
Give it like
you did a great job.
2-second drop and then start.
Thanks, Devin, for mentioning that. Yes, we're hiring. We're hiring for customer success, sales, and marketing roles currently, but we're always on the lookout for great people. So drop us a resume, give us a holler. We'd love to talk to you about what your interests are and why you think a startup, especially one that's growing and providing the kind of data and insights that we do, might be the right step, the right adventure for you.
Fantastic.